Hello and welcome back to my art vlog. My name is Amber Gatlin. If you don't know me, I am an actor, singer, and painter here on YouTube, and today I'm going to be talking about my very first experience as an artist with oil paint. I've been an acrylic painter for a very long time, but there are certain limits to that medium, especially when you're working with portraiture, and I've realized that I'm very interested and passionate at learning to paint people. So with that goal in mind, I signed up for my very first beginner oil painting class at Studio Slew, which is actually very close to where I live. I didn't realize that until recently, and I was like, oh my gosh, why haven't I been to this studio? It's so close. And I just had an amazing time. I walked in and was absolutely blown away by all of the beautiful art on the walls. There's such a beautiful vibe in there, and you know, if you know me, you know a lot of my circle is theater people and singers and more performance artists, so I don't really have a ton of friends who really take visual art super seriously or are very passionate about that. So I've been meaning to make a priority out of building community in that aspect of my life. So it was really special to walk in there and be surrounded by this energy and all of these people who are really passionate about visual art and want to learn more about it. So it was really special. And I asked the teacher if he would be okay with me filming some of my process because I'm an art vlogger, and he was not only accepting, he was actually very encouraging and enthusiastic. He was like, yeah, this is the perfect place to do this. Like, we're also on YouTube. We understand, we want you to promote your art, and we encourage, you know, having an online presence. So that was just really great to be encouraged in that way, because it's really not easy to put yourself and your work on camera. So to be met with that kind of enthusiasm was just really meant the world to me. As someone who's been painting for a lot of years, I went into this class knowing exactly what I wanted to get out of it. I know that my palette gets very messy very quickly, so I wanted some help being able to organize my palette. I wanted help learning how to color mix, learning what kind of tools I'm going to need to be able to work in oil, how to handle those tools and clean those tools, and basically just learning how to generally work with this medium and what to keep in mind. And this class really checked all of those boxes for me. Mr. Slew himself really opened up my whole world by explaining desaturation and that particular process. Of course, values are kind of easier. You add white to make something a little brighter, or black to make it a little darker, but I was really struggling with, you know, these kind of in-between tones that are closer to gray or nude, just more neutral colors. And when it comes to realism, you really have to lean on these very slight variations in chroma or saturation. So he really opened up my world of learning to desaturate and basically make colors less vibrant by adding their opposite. And he taught us this phrase, Christmas Mets Lakers, which is basically a way to remember which colors are opposite each other. Christmas being red and green, Mets being orange and blue, and Lakers being purple and yellow. Although me not being much of a Lakers fan, I tend to think more LSU. That's what's helpful for me, so to each their own, I guess. But having this desaturation system basically gave me, in theory, a perfect blueprint on how to color match. And because oils are so predictable in the way that they're created and so traditional, they basically mix the same way every time, which is exactly the kind of reliable system that I have been looking for and needing in my practice of being an acrylic painter, which basically has a mind of their own. And like, I have 5 different blues, they mix in 5 different ways. I don't always remember which blue I'm using, and it's just, it can be a real nightmare, especially when you're trying to paint more realistic things. So I was just so excited to get started. So after a brief exercise in value, we did a apple painting and I have to say the paint felt so buttery on this kind of glossy paper we were working with, and the color mixing does take a lot of time and a lot of work, but after you're done with that part and you can just play, it is really so simple. And I do think having all of those years of experience as an acrylic painter really paid off for me in terms of just control with my movements with the brush and feeling confident that I can put the paint exactly where I want it to go. And that little blending thing that happens with oil paint was something that I could manage a little bit better now, because technically this wasn't my very first oil painting. I tried a more Bob Ross style oil painting way back when I was like a preteen. I think I saw a Bob Ross video and I was like, I want to do that. So I got a little oil paint set and I tried it out, and I thought it came out pretty well, but I ended up like touching it on accident and making a little mistake there, and then I didn't know how to fix it because it was oil, and it kind of like scared me away from using oil paints ever again because I'm such a perfectionist and afraid of mistakes. So that was like over a decade ago, I'm sure. I'll try to find a picture of it, but yeah, since that time, I have definitely gained some more skills and some more confidence as a painter, and I really fell in love with my apple. Like, I just think she's the most beautiful apple that ever existed. Like, I'm so serious. And I was so excited to go home and try to paint more things with oil paint. So I basically ran to the art store after this class, got a whole oil paint set, I got Gamsol, I got a tempered glass palette. All of these things happened to be on sale, so I got really lucky, and I just told myself that it was okay to spend the money because everything was like 40% off. So I got everything I needed, and then like the next day, all of New York shut down for this huge snowstorm that we had pretty recently. So I didn't have work, I didn't have anything else to do, and I was like, finally, I can pull out my oil paints and just be a happy little clam and paint all day. And so I set everything up and I set up my camera, and as I'm pulling out my paint set, I realized that it does not come with white paint. And that was absolutely devastating. Like I'm missing something. Y'all, I don't have white. These kids have white. And I didn't know what to do. You can actually see the moment here when I realized that and was just completely crushed, because not only do I not have what I need, I can't go get it because of this massive snowstorm. Like, everything is closed. So eventually what I decided to do, because I was so desperate to play with my new oil paints, I started a version of the chapel outside my window, which I was excited to paint in like blues and whites. But since I didn't have white, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna make yellow, which is the highest value I have. I'm just gonna make that my highest value, and then mix darker colors from there. So I ended up with this like kind of gross looking greenish yellow black snow-covered chapel. And I kind of hated it, but it did scratch the itch of continuing to work with oils. So I was like, okay, like that's fine for now, and we'll just try again later when I get white paint. So I did eventually get to the art store, and I was so wrapped up in the cabaret nonsense. If you don't know about that, that's fine. But basically I'm a producer, and I produce this feminist cabaret that's a charity event every year, and it always like completely takes over my life. So that's why I haven't posted in a while, but now that that's done with, I was finally able to go and get some white paint and play around a little bit, and I tried to redo, or I guess do another attempt at painting the beautiful church tower outside my window, but with all of these colors. So I spent a good 20-30 minutes mixing all of these colors and all of these paints. And when I finally put it on paper, I ended up with something that was a lot more juvenile and looked more like just blocks of color on a page, which basically that's what it was, but it was just interesting to compare the yellow-green chapel to the color chapel, because in a way the yellow-green one that I hated so much was more alive and more had more contrast and more detail to it. And I think it's teaching me that, you know, even if I do have all of the colors at my disposal, it really doesn't replace the attention to value and composition when you're painting. Just because I can match colors now doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to be a stronger painter for that. So it was a little bit of, you know, being taken down a peg and being like, okay, you know, yes, I can make the colors that I want to make, but it's really going to be about how I use those colors, how much detail am I going to put in at the start, because again, I'm used to being able to layer, you know, put layer upon layer upon layer of paint in a short amount of time, and oil paint is going to require a little more restraint. It's going to require a little more, I guess, planning and understanding the composition as a whole, because I won't be able to easily add those details or fix my mistakes, because each new layer is going to take like at least 5 days to dry. So I am still very, very excited about this new journey with oil paints, but I'm not going to be throwing away my acrylics just yet. A, because I'm not going to throw away paint. That was expensive paint. And because I think I will still use acrylics for a lot of my base layers for my paintings. And I'm still just playing around with oils, and you know, like any new medium, there's a bit of a learning curve. It's going to be a bit of trial and error. My plan is to do a few more like practice rounds on this smaller paper or maybe a smaller canvas to get used to working with flesh tones, because that's going to be a whole other layer of learning. But yeah, I feel really good about taking the time to learn this new skill, and I'm excited to put it into my practice. I'm excited to use it with Agnes, which is my next larger painting. You may have seen her in my previous vlog. I'll show a little bit of it here. It's a big pink underpainting right now, but it's going to be absolutely gorgeous when it's done. It's inspired by a certain scene in Hamnet, the book. I haven't seen the movie yet, but I did recently finish the book, and oh my god, it was so beautiful. Everyone should read that book. I really, really loved it. So yeah, very exciting things. I am also planning to be more involved with Studio Slew so that I can have a little artist community. They do figure practicing, like form drawing and painting every Sunday, so I'm definitely going to get more involved with that. And I'm also planning to do a shop launch sometime this spring. I'm not sure exactly when that's going to be yet, but I will keep you updated via my newsletter. If you're not subscribed to my newsletter, please go ahead and visit my website and sign up for my newsletter, and you can stay updated on everything about my art shop. And there's also some exclusive discounts and content that you can get there, so I would really appreciate that. So that's my journey with oil paint thus far. I'm really excited to do it more, and I really appreciate you tuning in to my art vlog. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!